basically talking about how morphic fields and morphic resonance is a way, is explaining how things in nature are responding to these cues and these patterns that allow them to exhibit these very complex organizational patterns. So like when you see a beehive, for example, and all these bees know what to do, they know how to respond, they know exactly like where to go and move, and like how do they all connect, how do they all communicate so quickly, how do they all know? Or for example, when you see a school of fish and like it's this big school of fish and you just shifts direction, it seems like every single fish in that school moved at the exact same time without having to talk to anybody about it. Nobody goes, you know, if you don't hear like one of the fish suddenly scream, "Go!" You know, shift left, shift right. No, they just all fucking do it at the same time, and it's amazing. And that's one of those things that we haven't been able to explain. And morphic resonance, morphogenetic fields are starting to really give us an idea about that. On the post, I talk about how cell membranes are able to receive cues from its environment, and you can take a cell from for example, like a lung cell, and take it out of the tissue and remove the little antennas that it has in the membrane, and then place it into some liver tissue. Now you have another liver cell, and the liver cell, so the lung cell can become a liver cell simply by changing its environment. You take it out of the lung and you put it in a little liver tissue, and it'll start to receive cues from all the other cells and its environment, and simply change its programming. The DNA will actually match its surroundings. So before recent studies with Dr. Bruce Lipton, people have always thought that the DNA is completely in command. Like little information in your DNA, it's hardwired, it's written in there, and it doesn't change. And whatever that is for each cell, that cell is going to behave according to its DNA. But Bruce Lipton's research is showing no, actually the cell membrane has a lot more to do with it. For example, if you were to take a large fish or a species of large fish, right? Say the fish grow to be like this big, but you put a baby one of those fish into a tank this big, it will never grow that big. It'll never grow as big as its brother who's, say, out in the ocean swimming free, because the cues, it's learning from its environment. It's saying, I can't grow here. Same thing goes for like the energetic environment that we're always in. There's always like all these different like psychic or energetic or resonant or vibrational interference and bombardment that we get from Wi-Fi signals, TV signals, other people's emotions, other people's feelings. There's like a whole list of things, and that's creating like this soup, this environment that we're all in, and we're all responding to that psychologically, spiritually, physically, however, emotionally. It's everything that's going on. It has to do with that environmental climate that's created by these vibrations. These morphic fields are constantly communicating, and we're able to tap into a connectivity and a network, a sense of community, again through morphic fields. And the more you learn, the more one learns about it, the more you can sense, oh, the field in that bar is terrible. I'm not gonna go in there because it's gonna like affect me in a negative way. And you start to choose to be around positive people, things that you see in nature, balance, harmony, joy, people who, get stuff done, but they have a nice balance where they can have a little fun, they're lighthearted, yada yada. All these things, those kinds of qualities that nature exhibits constantly, are basically the sort of things that are going to create a nice, rich morphogenetic field. And the morphogenetic field is like an invisible grid upon which all the molecules are structuring themselves. And you're creating the foundation for something to grow. So if you want to manifest something positive and great and wonderful, you need a positive, great, wonderful morphogenetic resonance in place. And that can be created through intention, imagination, love, drive, desire. Those sorts of things are generating fields and pulsing out frequencies all the time. So the other thing I want to talk about is the what they call the divine secretion, sacred secretion of spinal fluid, and sexual alchemy. Basically, is this concept that you don't spill your seed, you don't have ejaculation with every orgasm. I mean, it's okay to have it sometimes, maybe like bi-weekly, but if you're doing it every time that you have, if you're ejaculating on a regular basis, you don't complete the cycle. So there's like a sacred secretion that comes down through your spine, and it starts to give you the qualities, these higher qualities of humanity, of the divine human, right? Of temperance, love, compassion, balance, willingness to serve and help others. It starts to come down, and when we have an ejaculation with our orgasm, it comes out. It gets mixed into our spinal, our semen fluid, and it's spilled out. So what a lot of the Vedic teachings and Qigong teachings, and not just Qigong, it's not just like Indian people who do this, is actually Nikola Tesla was known to be celibate and practice raising his sexual energy up to where he could use it for his inventions. Also Einstein. Those are just two that I know who have practiced some form or other of where you don't ejaculate and you circulate the energy. So I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of how you can start to feel this. What you do is you contract the muscles around the anus and like the perineum, which is between the testicles and the anus. And when you squeeze those, you relax, but you squeeze and you visualize, as you breathe up, you visualize the energy going from here up the spine back to the brain. When that energy goes back up there, the energetic release, the orgasm goes up through here, and it doesn't cause an ejaculation. And then you save all that mana, all that life force, all the chi that's in your seed, aka the sperm. It's charged with life force. You don't want to spill it every time. Unless you're trying to have a baby, you don't need to spill it. You don't need to ejaculate unless you're trying to have a baby. You can use those resources to power creativity, compassion, ideas, and whatever endeavor you want. That energy becomes spiritually charged and helps you to reach higher, communicate. It creates an antenna. It opens the pineal, and it creates a connectivity to where you're able to really receive guidance and be in tune and sense your surroundings, and not have this like needy, wanting sex all the time, craving a release all the time. That sort of thing goes away. I have a post. One of our friends, I think Carl had written this post about. It's called "Disarming and Empowering Masculine Sexual Energy," and he says it way better than I can say it in this text. It's really well written. I recommend it. It's in one of my posts on my Facebook page. But yeah, it's basically that. He says it in there where you will no longer have this desire, this neediness, and this like pressure that takes over us and creates this alternative motivation. When we're talking to the opposite sex or whoever, when you're talking to whoever it is that you're attracted to, you don't have to feel this sense of needy, wanting, attachiness, because you're cultivating your own chi flow. Your own sexual energy is going back up and feeding yourself, and able to create this antenna that connects you to the divine source of attention, approval, love, right? Nurturing, care. You're able to supply yourself directly through God and your higher power, whatever that may be. And so that your relationships with other people, your relationships with the object, whoever it is that you're attracted to, is much purer, much clearer, much less neediness. There's not nearly as much like grasping or clinging or like feeling like you owe me something, or feeling like all that kind of stuff that happens in relationships. It's greatly diminished when you start to save your seed. Don't ejaculate. You squeeze and contract, you relax, you feel the urge, you feel the buildup of sexual energy, you simply relax, you bring your mind to higher things, and you contract, the anus and the perineum, the area between the testicles and the anus. You contract those, you can pulse it or just hold it as you breathe the energy up. If you get it up to the heart, that alone is amazing, but the idea is to get it all the way back up, and then it comes out through the crown of your head. And yeah, with that knowledge, if you start practicing that and getting into the idea of morphic resonance, morphogenetic fields, aka like good vibrations and good vibes, and just noticing like, hey, this kind of music is really destructive vibes and it's not supporting me. Same with like, maybe like horror, like films or images that are very like harsh. They're creating a vibration that's very destructive. Harsh people, harsh places. You want to like you start to get into this pattern of like gravitating towards positivity and cutting out negativity, cutting out violence, cutting out those sorts of things. And there's like a little transformation where there's a lot of lightness beginning to flow within. And I would couple that, like I said, with the sexual alchemy, which is what I call it, sexual alchemy. I'm not the first person to call it that. This is just like in the Qigong Taoistic schools, they call it Taoistic Qigong alchemy. Mantak Chia is somebody that I could recommend. He talks about it a lot, and there's a lot of people who teach about that. And then there's this whole tantra thing where people think that it's like basically having sex for spiritual practice. That's not what tantra is. That would be another video, but there's a lot more to tantra. It's more about recognizing energy and the duality, the tension between negative and positive, and being able to consciously guide the energy through that journey. Because sexual energy, all energy is basically always going back and forth between negative and positive. It's like oscillating. It's always kind of negative and positive. And that's what the microcosmic orbit, which I've talked about before, starts here. You bring it down. You have the buildup of energy. Same thing. You want to have your hands together so that you're not leaking energy through here, and then you visualize that ball of energy right there in your belly, and you bring it down through the perineum, up the tailbone, and up the spine, all the way up. And having the tongue connected to the roof of your mouth is another secret that connects the circuit. There's a channel back here which is called the governor channel in meridian for like acupuncture, but also for energetic purposes. And then you bring it all the way down. You keep bringing the energy down to the tongue, and then back to where you started, right here in the belly, right around the belly button area. Doing that, just circulating that energy, helps to open and activate these channels that will redirect the sexual buildup and allow it to come up to the organs, the heart, the mind, and the spiritual centers. So yeah, that's it. That, and look up Morphic Resonance. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate everybody. Much love, and have a good day or a good night.